Hello there, this is the Bookkeeping Master on YouTube. Welcome to this video. Thank you for taking the time to view this video. I know a lot of my viewers and subscribers are currently looking for accounting related work. They're either new to accounting and looking for a bookkeeping and accounting role, or they're looking to change jobs, or they have started studying accountancy and they're looking for a job. And I thought it would be good to give some advice on accounting interview questions and answers you can give to those questions, as well as preparation for an interview and how to get an interview. It's important that I tell you that I am not an expert in this field. I do consider myself an expert in finance and accounting, but when it comes to recruitment, interviews and getting jobs, my knowledge is very limited, so I'll do my best to give reliable advice. What I can tell you is I had 3 accounting jobs, one after the other, before I started this YouTube channel and set up my own bookkeeping practice. And each of those jobs, obviously I went to an interview and I got each of those jobs. Now, I've only had 3 accounting interviews in my life, and each of those interviews I got the job. 2 of the positions were for very large companies. One was a government-owned entity, one was a very large manufacturing company. And then the third company that I worked for was a lot smaller. But what I'm trying to say is there was a lot of competition for these vacancies, and I was able to go to those interviews and get the job. So I do feel I have at least some knowledge I can impart to you. First of all, if you're applying for accounting jobs, I know it's very discouraging. I've been there. I remember taking my qualifications. I was 2 years into my qualifications before I got a job in accounting, and I did apply for accounting jobs in those 2 years, and I found it very frustrating, that rejection over and over again. Sorry, you haven't been successful in getting to the interview stage, and even some employers not getting back to you. What I found most frustrating was recruitment agencies dropping me an email, give me a call, saying we have lots of jobs, come in and register. So I'd take 2 hours out of my time to drive to the recruitment office, register, and it didn't go anywhere. And I did that 5 or 6 times, and it got very discouraging and very frustrating. So my advice to you is, even though it can be discouraging, don't give up, but just keep applying for positions. And as well as keep applying, ensure that you tailor your CV to the position that you are applying for. For example, if you are currently in a bookkeeping role, say you handle the accounts, you do bank reconciliations, you do the invoicing, you do the supplier accounts, perhaps you do VAT returns, you do every aspect. You do a stereotypical bookkeeping job. If you're applying for a job that's perhaps for a purchase ledger role, don't put on your CV that you're a bookkeeper and you did bank reconciliations and VAT returns and all that, because your employer is not really going to care about that. What you can do is say you're a bookkeeper and you had responsibility over the supplier accounts, you recorded invoices that came in from suppliers, you ensured that suppliers were paid in payment terms, you built good rapport with suppliers, and focus on the aspects of your previous job that are relevant to the position that you are applying for. Even if you don't have a current accounting job, but say you have an office job, there are aspects of an office job that do relate to accounting jobs. A lot of accounting jobs are generally office based, and there are things you can focus on, things you can emphasize, like keeping records, etc. So first of all, to get the interview, keep applying for jobs, don't give up, and tailor your CVs to the positions that you are applying for. Now, when an interview is extended, make sure you look smart, look your best when you go, wash, groom yourself, wear appropriate clothing, and during the interview, keep eye contact. The two main things I would say that got me through interviews and enabled me to successfully get the jobs offered in the interviews was coming across confident, having eye contact in interviews. And as well as that confidence, letting your potential future employers know that you are highly competent, that you can do the role that they are currently advertising. Now, there are a number of questions that are asked in an interview. And if you go to my website, there'll be a post that goes along with this video. It'll be titled Accounting Interview Questions and Answers. If you go to that post, I'll list a number of questions that can be asked in accounting related interviews. But for this video, I will focus on the questions that are asked most often. A question that I've always been asked at an interview is, tell us about yourself. Sometimes it's the first question asked. Now, it's important that when you answer this question, that you are confident and not desperate. Don't come across desperate to your potential future employers. Just be calm, be confident, and don't tell them that you like skiing and going for walks with your family. Instead, tell them about the qualifications that you have taken. If there are certain things in those qualifications that you really enjoyed that are applicable to the job, then mention that. Say you loved learning about double entry bookkeeping, for example, or loved learning about the asset register in your AAT qualification or whatever qualification you're taking. Make sure you mention that if that's applicable to the job that you're being interviewed for. It's important that you don't lie. I'm not telling you to lie in an interview. Don't do that. But if there are things that go hand in hand with the position that you're hoping to get, then mention it. As well as qualifications, tell them about the experience you have. Once again, just like the CV, don't roll off things that are not related to the job you're applying for. When they ask you to tell them about yourself, tell them about the purchase ledger aspects of your previous jobs if it's a purchase ledger role. Another question that is often asked in interviews is, what do you know about the company? I can't really give you an answer for that, but what I can tell you to do is research the company and the job you're applying for before the interview. Make sure you learn about the company. I would say don't fill your brain with all this information about the company, as it will come off that you've just memorized it from their website. But make sure you know what they do, perhaps how long they've been going for, and a few other minor points about the company or business. Another question that is asked in interviews is, what weaknesses do you have? Now, you can turn this question around to actually impress your interviewers with a potential strength. Once again, don't lie, but tell your interviewers something that is a weakness but can also be considered a strength. For example, not so much anymore, I've grown out of it now, but years ago when I was applying for positions and worked in an office, I was very much a perfectionist. I still am a perfectionist now, but what I used to do is I used to get quite frustrated, especially with myself, if something just wasn't right. I'm still very much a perfectionist, but I'm a lot more forgiving with myself now than I used to be. So in my interviews, when my potential future employer said to me, what are your weaknesses? I would say, My biggest weakness is that I end up getting quite frustrated with myself because I'm very much a perfectionist. I really struggle when things aren't as right as they should be. Now, that is a very good answer to the interviewers, and that's going to impress them. There may be other attributes you have that could be considered strengths. Perhaps you consider yourself a bit too eager to learn. Perhaps in the past you have worked slightly too hard on certain projects. And perhaps there are other weaknesses that you have that could be considered strengths. I would say that don't mention weaknesses along with other employees. What I mean by that is don't say, oh, in the past I've really struggled to get on with others because I've just been so eager to work. Because your interviewers are going to be wondering how you're going to fit in with the other employees in the business. And if you let off any signal that there could be any potential disruption between working relationships, then that's going to put them off. Now, the final question that's normally asked in an interview just before you leave, and it's a very common question, is, do you have any questions for us? Now, this is where you can show off a bit. I remember one of the biggest interviews I had. I knew they were struggling in their accounts department a bit. I remember that's the sort of feeling, and that's what they kind of said in the interview. They needed someone to come in and really tidy things up. And I remember that my interviewer said that they were not getting management accounts or things that they wanted doing that currently were not being done. So when she asked me if I had any questions, I said to her, you mentioned that you would like management accounts. That's not a problem. I'm more than happy to help you do that. I'm guessing you would like me to also do things like accruals and prepayments. You can start showing off your knowledge a bit and also asking questions that are going to show off that you're interested in the position. I remember also asking if they would like the management reports monthly or weekly. How often would they like them done? Would they also like things like sales figures displayed and fancy graphs and all these things? And it really impressed the interviewer, and I don't know if it was that really got me the job, but I know it definitely helped. Now, if you don't feel like you can show off and you don't have any questions, then a good response to that question, do you have any questions, is, I currently don't have any questions, but I know when I leave, I will likely have some. Can I have like an email address or a phone number, some sort of contact, that when those questions do come, I can drop them down and get them to you? Once again, that shows a lot of interest in the position, and it's a very confident answer. You're willing to keep contact, and it's a way to impress your interviewers. So hopefully that has been of some help, and I thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already done so, please like, please subscribe, please check out my website www.bpfs, that's Bravo Papa Foxtrot Sierra -online.com.